You're listening to The Life Manual with your hosts Tom Payani and Emma Bradford, a practical guide giving you tips and tools to enjoy a happy, fulfilled and successful life.
Hi, welcome to The Life Manual with me, Tom Payani. I'm very happy today with this brand new show. I've got the pleasure of having Emma Bradford in my company.
Hello, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. I'm really excited about this show.
Me
I think
too.
it can be really, really useful for everyone. I mean, before we start, it's worth me mentioning what we're going to be talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it's called The Life Manual, and it's just helping people in as practical sense as possible, you know, to create in a situation they want, to create in a life they desire, whether that's through behaviour change, perspective, goal setting, mindfulness, meditation, visualisation, getting rid of stress, you know, looking after your body.
Everything.
You know, everything. Everything's a factor, isn't it? Everything's a factor.
Yes.
So, you know, the most important thing I think for us is just to try and make it as practical as possible, isn't it?
Absolutely.
That's our aim.
Well, that's where the magic happens,
Yeah.
when you practice.
So, you know, we thought today a good start might be, you know, I know you're an expert in neuro-linguistic programming, NLP for short, and we thought today would be a good idea to just have a little bit of an introduction to that.
Absolutely.
Just to get the ball rolling.
Yeah.
I mean, well, let's get on with it then.
Sounds good.
All right, so for those of you who don't know, neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, I'll let you're the expert, Emma, so I'll let you give a quick summary of what it's all about. What's the difference between NLP and other forms of coaching or, you know, etc.?
Good question. So NLP, so first of all, NLP stands for neuro-linguistic programming, and that's to do with what's going on with our brain, our mind, the neurology, and also the linguistics, so how we communicate to ourselves and others. And then we also have a series of tools and techniques. So that's where the word programming comes in, because we can reprogram how our unconscious mind views things. So we can let go of limiting beliefs. And this is what sets NLP apart from other forms of coaching out there, because we're really working with the unconscious mind. And it's not to say that there aren't other things that can help. No,
and we're going to be talking about
absolutely. We're going to be using we're going to be talking about lots of different things.
There's room for everything.
Exactly. However, NLP the focus is very much working with the unconscious mind and letting go of unhelpful thoughts and behaviours. And
when you look at NLP, it's sort of terrifying and exciting at the same time because the amount of power in our unconscious mind, or the amount of behavioural change that is potentially usable there, is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes when I'm doing workshops, I draw a picture of an iceberg on the whiteboard, because icebergs, you can see only the tip, and there's so much more underneath. And this is often how the brain is described. Like, we have the conscious brain, and then we also have the unconscious brain. And unconsciously, there is so much information stored, and it affects us on a daily basis.
I mean, we get so caught up in our conscious mind, don't we, that we forget what's underneath. And
exactly.
I guess that's the use of NLP, trying to explore that a little bit.
Yeah, understanding what's going on, and really letting go of what is no longer helpful.
Yeah, so I think a good place to start could be just a summary and, you know, some pillars of what NLP is, really. I know the technical term is presuppositions, but basically that just means the sort of beliefs, the foundations of NLP, and there's more than one, and it changes from coach to coach, and, you know...
Yeah, so they're key to understanding what NLP is, and things that I live my life by.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's get on with it then. So, the first one, we agreed on these before. There was a few we picked out and we thought would be useful that we could talk about. Having respect for other people's way of seeing the world. You know, and a lot of it is common sense, but it's worth bearing in mind, this one, isn't it? Especially in the heat of the moment or in a stressful situation. You know, it's fine understanding someone else's perspective when you're in a good mood or you're chilled or, you know, you've got a positive frame of mind in the first place. But I guess the real challenge is when things aren't really going your way, right?
Exactly. And yeah, I mean, we say that everyone has a different map of the world. Everyone has a different pair of glasses that they look through life with. And neither person is 100% right or wrong. It's just different opinions. So it can be very easy, like in the heat of the moment, to get caught in to connect with the ego and be like, yeah, I'm right and you're wrong, and to really hold on to that. Whereas with NLP, for me, the essence of NLP is that curious mindset of, I wonder what's going on here, and I wonder what they must believe in order to say whatever they might say or act in whatever way they might be acting. Just to find out what's really going on. Yeah,
I mean, instead of that, you know, automatic, often easier initial angry reaction, taking a step back and maybe asking why a little bit, you know, as you said, that curious mindset, you know, well, why is that person thinking like that? And of course, this is easier said than done, but then I guess that's the whole point why you study NLP or you know, you try and learn these skills.
Exactly. And I remember it brings me back to a time when I was on holiday and there was a queue of people waiting for the toilets on a beach, and there was this little kid that went all the way up to the front of the queue, opened up one of the doors. The toilet was open and vacant the whole time. All the adults in the queue were wondering like what was going on, because they assumed a closed door meant that it was occupied, whereas this young kid didn't have that mindset, and he just went up, opened the door and went in, and he had that curious mindset, like, I wonder, I'm gonna try things out.
Yeah. I mean, we're not advocating going around opening random toilet doors. That's
no, obviously not. But it's having that mindset of, is that really what's happening here, or can I question things a bit more?
Yeah, and when you do question things and you have that curious mindset and you're wondering why someone is behaving in the way they do, it's obviously going to help you, isn't it? It's going to make you a lot more empathetic as a person. It's going to make you a lot more rounded, and it's going to make you less angry and less stressed in the situations where possibly before you were.
Yeah. It's just, respecting that you have your way of seeing things, and also other people have their way of seeing things. We're all individuals. Yeah.
Okay. Let's move on then. Another interesting one that we had a look at was that, and maybe you can help me out with this, people are not their behaviours. What do you think that's getting at, that key?
So that's describing how someone might be behaving in a certain way. So for example, you have a stressed and angry boss at work, and we can put a lot of emphasis on the behaviour, so we can really focus on what that boss might be saying to us or how they might be behaving around us. However, deep down, there's something so much more. Like, everyone has this wonderful spark, this energy, this soul, whatever people want to call it, within. Like, we're human beings, so people are not their behaviour 100%. It's looking at a little bit deeper within and connecting with a human being.
We often fall into that trap, don't we? You know, if somebody maybe is not very nice to us, our first reaction is, that's not a nice person.
Exactly.
You know, and it's difficult. Of course it's difficult to accept somebody not being nice to you, but you know, again, I guess it's connected with the curious mindset. You know, there's a reason why someone is behaving like that. Of course, you don't want to be walked all over, and you can't be a doormat in life, and you need to stick up for yourself and be a strong character. But it's also finding that balance, isn't it? Of you know, you have your limits, and I guess it's, if somebody is not nice to you, it's telling them that that's not acceptable, but in a way that doesn't make you less centered, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. You need to have your boundaries. At the same time, understand that if there's something else behind it, if they're behaving in a certain way, there must be a reason behind it. Yeah. There's something that has triggered that behavior in them, and that's not who they are 100%. Deep down, they're a human being.
Yeah. Okay. And then something that I think is really useful as well, where NLP talks about you've already got all the resources you need.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what do you think about that one?
Yeah, I mean, every single person has this amazing potential, and I mean, this is so programmed into my brain now with the 4.5 years of teaching and working with NLP and clients. Every single client that comes in, I see this amazing potential that they have within, and every single person has the resources within them to create the life that they want to experience. Whether they choose to tap into those resources or not is another question.
Yeah, one thing's choosing it.
Mm-hmm.
A second thing is not even knowing if it's a choice in the first place.
Mm.
I think a lot of us don't even know the resources exist. You know, we think if we're feeling sad, then we're just a sad person, a depressed person, or if we lose our temper all the time, that's just who we are. You know, we don't actually understand that we have the power to change these behaviours. You know, these aren't set in stone.
Exactly. We tend to put ourselves in boxes and label ourselves.
And also, we're often told we're in boxes as well,
yes,
aren't we?
Yeah. And every single person can change that if they want to. That there's the ability to do that, and it's just tapping into that and finding out, okay, what qualities do I have as an individual? Like, what am I good at? What are my strengths? And if you're struggling and finding out what those might be, ask your friends and family, because I'm sure they could say hundreds.
Yeah. I mean, something that I'd like to add to that as well is I saw a really good quote the other day, and it just said, "You are not your thoughts."
Mm-hmm.
You know, and we have this ego inside of us, this negative self-talk, this annoying person who's telling us how rubbish we are all the time.
Inner critic,
yeah. And you know, he or she's not necessarily right. You know, that's something that's been either socially constructed or constructed through growing up, or how people have behaved towards us, or limiting beliefs, or for various reasons. You know, but I think it's so important to realise that that's not you, and you're always going to have your moments of doubt, I think, but it's also important to know that you can manage that annoying voice, at least, and you can know that you can change these behaviours to make that voice less strong, I think.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, I've held, in the last year, I've held 3 workshops on the inner critic, and the inner critic simply is just the fearful part of ourselves. It's just the fears. And the other part of ourselves is the loving part of ourselves. I mean, a lot of people say that when you break all the emotions down, you essentially have love or fear. And we are not only our fears. Like, learn from them and understand what's going on there, but at the same time, follow what you love regardless. And tap into those resources, yeah.
I think also, I don't know, speaking from experience, it was sort of comforting to know that I'm not the only human being on this planet with that inner critic. And sometimes you do think that, you know, you're like, what's wrong with me? Why have I got this weird guy in my head just telling me,
well, this is the thing.
And you think you're alone, and you think this is it makes you weird or abnormal, and it's not the case.
So there's the inner critic saying, I'm the only person with this, and I'm abnormal, and everyone else is better than me. I mean, it's just the inner critic saying that, and every single person at some point in their life has experienced it.
Yeah, for sure. We're all in it together.
Exactly.
All right. I think that's something else that's really, really useful. There's only feedback, not failure. Mm-hmm. And I think that's worth mentioning.
Absolutely. I mean, this is probably, out of all of the keys of NLP, this is the one that I mention the most in workshops, in sessions, and whenever we supposedly fail at something, like we believe that we've made a mistake and we've messed something up, it's not the end of the world. I mean, there's such a huge potential to learn something from that experience. So there's no failure ever. There's only feedback. Every single situation gives you feedback.
I mean, something that I've seen examples of this in real life a lot is, as you know, I do some other stuff with entrepreneurs, and I've run my own businesses and things. And you know, being from the UK, I think we have lots of positive traits being from there, but every culture has its positive and negative traits. But one thing I've noticed is with a more American mentality, especially in entrepreneurship, they're encouraged to fail a lot more. And you know, I think their attitude in a business context, I'm talking very specifically about an entrepreneurial context, is healthier. You know, they see failure as just, all right, well, I fail, so then I'm not going to fail because of this the next time. I'll fail because of something else, and eventually I won't fail. And I think, from my opinion, from my experience growing up in the UK, we sometimes beat ourselves up a little bit, or sometimes are scared of failing in that sort of context a little bit more.
Yeah, it can happen. And it's important to understand that whenever we might feel that we've failed at something, just like, okay, what can I learn from this? If this situation is happening for a reason, what is it teaching me? What is it giving me?
Yeah. Okay, moving on then. I just want to talk about modelling. And what I mean by that is if someone can do something, then it can be modelled and taught to anyone else. And I think, you know, because this show is about practical application of skills, I think this one is as practical as you can get, really.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it doesn't... It's important to make it clear that it doesn't mean comparing yourself to someone else or trying to be like someone else. It just means certain characteristics of someone that are positively affecting their life, certain patterns of behaviour can be used, can be applied to yourself. I think it's important to understand that difference, isn't it?
Yeah, and it links in with what we said in the very beginning as well, like having that curious mindset. So it's observing, noticing what they are doing. So, for example, if you want to improve your skills playing golf, for example, then you can observe what the masters, like the top people in the world, do when they're playing golf. Like, how do they stand? What's their physiology? How are they breathing? How are they talking? How are they walking? You can, if you get the chance to speak to them or someone who's very good at playing golf, ask them what their beliefs are, what they're thinking about in that moment, just before they're about to take a shot.
And just really simple things, just like, you know, involving body language and, you know, how you sit, how you stand, how you walk, how you talk, you know, things that very few people, I think, really think about.
Body language is so powerful. It's really, really powerful. And I mean, we know that the mind and body have this amazing connection, and we can have a positive influence on the body through what we're teaching our mind to focus on, but we also vice versa. The positions that we put our body in, the body posture and the physiology, can have an effect on our mind, our emotional and mental well-being. And
again, I think this is something else that when we say it sounds, you know, it's common sense, but it's so easy to forget this, isn't it? And, you know, this is a great thing about NLP, putting that in the making yourself conscious of these types of things.
Exactly. And when, like, the more you connect to NLP, whether it's like reading a book or listening to a podcast like this one regularly, and then you can have that habit. It's creating good habits, isn't it? Exactly. And the more you do it, the more it becomes part of your life.
Yeah, and that's something that we will definitely focus on in future episodes. Modelling, but also habits. Because, you know, that's the key, I think. Just making it where it becomes normal. You know, especially with things like meditation. That's a great example. If that becomes just a daily habit, you will see the effects of it. As simple as that. If you go to the gym every day and do weights, you're going to get bigger. You know, I think you need to look at something like meditation in the same way. You know, it's an exercise, and if you continue to do that exercise, you'll see the results.
It's the consistency. Yeah. Because quite often we try something, like, for example, when I'm doing workshops about food cravings or to do with how people look at food and their diet, if they slip up once, sometimes that's when the failure belief comes in, that they believe that they failed, and then they believe, okay, well, I might as well not bother now. Or it's not you need to have that consistency. It doesn't matter if you slip up every now and again, or one day you might not meditate. It's what we do on a consistent basis.
Yeah, don't beat yourself up about it.
Yeah.
Super, super important, and it's something that we'll definitely touch on again in the future. All right, what about this one? You're in charge of your mind, and therefore your results.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we have the ability to focus on certain thoughts and beliefs and alter our minds. Like with NLP, we have many, many different tools and techniques, which we'll be covering on this podcast, and noticing how we can reprogram our mind at our unconscious level to view things differently. And when we view things differently, we feel about things differently. And therefore, that has a positive influence on the results we get on our life experience. So what's going on up here in the brain can really has an influence on our life experience.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of overlap here as well, because this comes back a little bit of this inner critic we're talking about, you know, and it's just realising you're the one in control here, you know, and these limiting beliefs or this inner critic, sometimes you think that's the truth, and, you know, this inner critic is definitely the most convincing person I've ever met in my life. They're great at their job, I'll give them that. But, you know, you have to remember that it's not the truth. And, you know, if you're in control, if you start to realise that actually you are in control, it's just a massive, you know, relief almost.
Yeah.
You know, just knowing that, hang on a minute, I'm the boss here. And I don't know, I think maybe some people are better at understanding this naturally, but I think for a lot of people, they really don't believe that. And I think just sitting down one day and being like, hang on a minute, I get to decide. You know, I get to decide how I feel.
Exactly.
I get to decide how my mood. You know, and of course, the realities of life get in the way. If, you know, tragedy or things like this happen, I'm not saying we all need to be running around with, you know, super weirdly happy all the time. You know?
And that wouldn't be healthy either.
It's not normal.
No.
And I guess this goes on to something else, that it's also okay to be sad. It's
Yeah.
okay to be angry. I mean, this is getting a bit broader now, but I think we live in a society where we're told that if we're not happy all the time, there must be something wrong with us. You know, and I don't think that's a healthy thing to be putting out there.
No, I mean, every single emotion. Emotions basically are simply messengers. They're just teaching us something about whatever's going on in our life situation, something about us as well. And it's okay to feel sad every now and again. It's okay to feel angry.
I think it's important to as well, right?
To feel it, to observe it, to acknowledge it. The most important thing is what we do, how we act on it. So we can either choose to, like, if we're angry, we can either choose to punch someone, or we can choose to write about it.
Don't want to see Emma when she's angry.
Or to dance that out, or to do some exercise, or to like go for a run, or whatever it is. Find a healthy way to express
how to
that.
Practically manage these emotions. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, and that's what this podcast is going to be all about. All right. I mean, I think we've got through a fair bit there. I mean, a lot of it's common sense, but I think it's really nice to know that the control you have, and if you open up this sort of more subconscious part of your mind, the changes that can really be made. You know, this isn't just theory. These changes can genuinely be made.
Exactly, and we really want this to be a practical series of audios where people can try things out, because that's where you can really notice the difference. That's where the magic happens.
Well, you've brought us on nicely to something now, Emma, because, you know, I think every week we want to try and give some sort of practical technique or exercise just to try and illustrate what we're talking about. And, you know, we've been talking about perspective a lot, and understanding other people's perspective, and how, you know, if you take your own glasses off, maybe the world, you know, someone else's glasses, the world looks a little bit different. And recognising that. So I know before we go today, you just wanted to do a little exercise with us.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's give it a go. So what I'd like everyone to do is to imagine that up on the ceiling, there's a huge clock that's being projected up on the ceiling. and you can see the second hand moving around on that clock. So what I'd like you to do is to raise your arm up and point your finger up at that clock and imagine tracing, or start tracing that second hand with your finger around clockwise. So it's like you're moving your arm and your finger around clockwise, following that second hand. And as you do this, gently start lowering your arm down. So your finger is continuing to move round and around, and your whole arm is starting to move further and further down. And keep on going until you can look down on your hand. So you take your eyes away from the clock and look down at your hand, and just take a moment to notice which direction your hand is moving in now. So quite often people will notice that now the hand might be moving anti-clockwise. So what this illustrates is that just by the direction that we're looking at things in, so if we're looking up above or if we're looking down below, our experience can be completely different.
Yeah, and just, next time you're in a situation where you really are struggling or can't understand someone else's perspective, just maybe take a little bit of a step back, and just recognise, it's worth taking a moment to consider where the other person's coming from.
Yeah.
Asking
ourselves, I wonder, what can I learn here?
Yeah.
How can this teach me something?
Yeah, absolutely. Emma, listen, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you, as always.
Yeah, it's been great.
I mean, I would like to just give you an opportunity for you to tell us where people can find you if they want, just in case people are interested in learning a bit more about NLP, because I know this is your speciality. So, I mean, where can people find you if they want to learn more?
Yeah, so I have a lot of free resources on my website, so that's www.emmabradford.net. So there's a page there with links to my blog and various different free things that you can download that can help you to boost your self-esteem. And if you're in Barcelona, I also have a regular meetup group here, so we meet up twice a month and we practice NLP. So yeah, it'll be wonderful to see you there.
And also, we're going to be doing this Life Manual podcast regularly, aren't we? And this is we're going to.
I look forward to it.
Yeah, we're going to be trying to help out as much as possible and give us some practical advice that we can all use.
Yeah, practical tools for anyone, anywhere.
Yeah. All right, Emma. Once again, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
And I will see you next week.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
You were listening to the Life Manual podcast with your hosts Tom Payani and Emma Bradford. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share the link with your friends and family, helping us to spread these practical tools to more people in the world.